All right.
All right, what's up, everybody? I'm the artist formerly known as the Calisthenics Queen, and to my bottom is the beautiful Billy Slayer, Spency Graziano, and he's going to introduce his guest.
Today we got the Cactus Crusader himself, Ben
Woo!
Intensity.
Yes, sir. What up? What up?
Yo. Also, Ben, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the people that don't know you and what you do.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so my name is Ben. I go by Intensity Ben on YouTube. That's a rugby nickname. Um, was given to me by some OGs that just liked the way I played, like my motor and this kind of thing. So just kind of stuck. I like the moniker. I'm a full-time personal trainer at a commercial gym. I train athletes on the side out of my garage gym as well. My goal with training down the line is to run my own business that really focuses on athletes in specific, but I help people with anything from weight loss to getting bigger, faster, stronger, to hitting PRs, aesthetic goals, you name it. I train anybody from like 12 years old all the way up to like 92 years old. Got them all doing squats, bench, deadlift, all that kind of stuff. My philosophy of training is the barbell is king. Okay, so the classics are the best: the squat, the bench press, the deadlift, the overhead press, our weighted calisthenics, all that kind of stuff. And anybody that watches my channel will see that. That's kind of how I train. That's how I train my clientele, and I believe very, very strongly in those movements that they can give you the results that you want, regardless of what they are. So.
Would you say that your not your expertise, but like what you're most interested in is doing the athletic training specifically?
Absolutely, yeah. So that would be how I train myself, and I would be lying to say if I didn't even pepper in some athletic traits with people that tell me they want to lose weight. I believe myself that jumping, running, all those kinds of like athletic style of movements, they're not going to do you any harm, even if your goal is purely aesthetics, right? So jumping, running, landing, some sort of explosive med ball throws, Olympic weightlifting, if we can swing it, those are all things that I would say would be my expertise. And I include those heavily into training programs, in addition to what I said, the classic big three and this kind of thing for my clientele.
You know what I find is like exactly like you're saying, even when people are just interested in those type of things like physique,
Yeah.
just spending a little bit of time and doing some type of jumping work or whatever, it just increases their proprioception so much more
Oh,
when they
yeah.
go and do other exercises, and then
Yeah.
maybe they can be a little bit stronger at those exercises and
Yes.
it helps their physique. So it all goes hand in hand, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. So my biggest thing that I battle with my clientele at a commercial gym is actually what we're on right now, YouTube. But they're not watching us on YouTube. They're watching like the guys that get all the view time, all the air time, the hypertrophy obsessed crowd that's like, you don't need to jump, you don't need to sprint. All you need to do is just take sets to failure on these machines and stuff like that. So it's crazy to see them spin their wheels and do what they think is the right thing because they're being fed this stuff by the powers that be, right? The people that are getting all the views, when we all know they'd be better off just deadlifting, squatting, lunging, sprinting, learning how to land, like all that kind of stuff. And you hit the nail on the head. The people that struggle the most with like the concept of the compound movements, you get those people jumping, you get those people like taking off and this kind of thing. All of a sudden, their lifts feel great. You know what I mean? And they don't know why, but we do. So,
I know there's a couple topics that you wanted to try to go over, but so we can get Jeremy into that. But
yeah,
before that, I wanted to ask about so you said like in a commercial gym setting,
yeah,
these this will be clients that you're like let's just say for instance you work at LA Fitness and they're like we need a personal trainer and they send them to you and then you're just like
that is
they're,
correct.
they're like I want to change my physique. So this is the type of client that you're battling, like rewiring the brain.
Absolutely. So, the overwhelming majority of my clientele is exactly what you just said. They're going to go talk to a sales department who's then going to say, this trainer will fit your needs. Basically, just whoever has openings, take care of them, get them the results that they want. And they're anything from like insane goals of, I need to lose 90 pounds in 6 weeks for a wedding and this kind of stuff. And okay. So obviously the first thing that I do, and I should mention this too, I was in food service for 10 years before I was a personal trainer. So nutrition is a huge part of, you know, the way I train clients. So the first thing I'll teach them is calories in, calories out, calorie deficit, which to us is, common sense. But they're like, oh, they'll see results almost immediately in aesthetics from that. In terms of the performance stuff, that's where, yes, the rewiring has to take place because the vast majority of these people, their version of fitness is just look around the weight room. What's everybody doing? He's on a chest press. That must be what I need to do. And just random weight selection. They have no idea about splits. They have no idea about dosing or anything like that. So education is the biggest thing that I try to do for my clients.
Yeah,
And my thing is, if you want to stay training with me for decades, great. But the goal is to get you doing fitness and get you that intrinsic motivation, like what we have, to where it becomes a hobby. Like you fall in love with the fitness, basically. And then all these results that people want fall into place. And what I've come to find is get them out of this outcome based thinking as far as like, well, if I'm not doing this and it doesn't build my glutes because all I care about is building glutes, then I'm not going to do it. Sometimes
yeah,
that's you're going to do it because it's just going to make you in better shape overall, and it's
yeah.
going to contribute to a better body overall, and that's a tough sell for people, right? Because in the commercial industry, they're like, "Well, I'm paying you this money. I want these results. I don't want those results," right? So you battle that sometimes.
Yeah, it's like sometimes no matter what you do, it's never going to be enough. Jeremy, can you speak a little bit about what your typical clients are? Do you run into the same issues that Ben does with your clients?
Well, I guess it's different for me because I'm not in a commercial gym. I actually have a private studio in my residence. So people will go over and look at the that I have. And a lot of my clients are long-term clients. I mean, I've had clients that have been with me for like 5 or 6 years now. And typically the person that's going to sign up with me is somebody who's planning on doing it long term. I don't typically get short-term clients, so I guess it's different in a commercial gym setting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It is. So they sign contract lengths. So I sell training as well. So and this is pretty just kind of cookie cutter for any commercial gym, right? It's going to be 3 month, 6 month, year long contracts, right? And then it's going to be once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. The gold standard is 30-minute sessions, which as we know, that's not ideal, right? That's not at all ideal. So I'm battling like, okay, they're like, well, I need to do a dynamic warm up and I want to progress in deadlifts and I want to do this and all this stuff. So everything has to be superset and everything has to be only what works. Like what I would call myself is a whore for results. I don't care. Like I will do whatever it takes to get those results. And I've had even other trainers. Well, you have your clients do a lot of squats and deadlifts. Well, they get a lot of results, So yeah, it's different. Those are the constraints that I'm under in the commercial. Obviously, training athletes out of my garage is probably very similar to what you're doing out of your studio. That would be my dream to do that full time someday, when the stars align. But yeah, it's the commercial fitness industry for personal trainers. It's interesting, man. So
That's some of the things that drive me crazy because I remember I was working with a guy one time and he wanted me to like part of his program or whatever, and he wanted to, oh, you could train this class, you could train this group of people, but we want to standardize warm up and cool down, and it was an hour session, and some of the class comes in late, and it's just like, man, I value, like, I don't ever want a client leaving and thinking that they didn't get like the best results possible, and I care about that more than I care about like having a job or working and getting more work. So like I'm always like under like, I'd rather, be a greeter at Walmart than train people and look at it as like a job, which is the same reason why I like very rarely do like general pop and like the stuff that you're describing. Like obviously it's when you have an athlete, you have to check all those bases you're describing and then more. So like transformation stuff, to me it's boring and it's super easy. It's
yeah,
just you have to get them there mentally,
yeah,
So athletic stuff is hard, right? It's still like an art form rather than a science because we don't have all the answers. So that's what like
Correct.
intrigues me. And if it didn't intrigue me, I'd be greeting people at Walmart right now, you know?
So what's the hardest thing for you to deal with when working in a commercial gym? Because obviously, I mean, I did used to work in a commercial gym, and the thing that I found that was most frustrating is obviously for you, you're training people, to become actually athletic, to do real athletic stuff, and for it to transfer into real life, into whatever sport they're doing. But the thing that I found that was most frustrating was seeing people do like quote unquote functional fitness, where it's like, oh, you're on a Bosu ball with one leg, and then doing like a row with like a band, and then
Yeah,
the
oh, yeah.
trainer is just making them just do it as much as possible. And I shit you not, there was one trainer who actually broke a client's wrist.
Yes. Oh yeah. So I witness this on a daily basis. And I go off on like psycho rants and tangents almost on a like bi-weekly basis to clients about this who will point out from the car, look what they're doing, that looks exciting. And I'll tell them, okay, so the brain, right, only understands that you're standing on an unstable surface on this Bosu ball. Do you think you can load up a 400 plus pound hinge pattern off a Bosu ball? Well, it just looks more functional. And I have to tell them in a very kind of politically correct way, even though it drives me insane. Hey man, that looks cool, but it's not going to do anything for you. It's not enough stimulus imposed to drive home an adaptation. So what trainers are notorious for in the commercial fitness industry is kind of the horse and pony smoke show type stuff. So if they're trying to build a clientele, what do you think people watching are going to think about? Well, he's got this old guy balancing on one foot, doing an RDL on a Bosu pole. Because that must be important, right? That's what the Gen Pop client is going to automatically assume. Where they see somebody over there grunting out sets of five and deadlifts, I'm going to get hurt if I do that. And it's crazy to me that like in fitness, we don't seem to be worried about this like functional like psycho pendulum to the functionality of like unstable surfaces and what he was mentioning about the band pulls and stuff like that. They're not afraid of that, but they are terrified of barbell movements. Oh, I'm gonna get hurt. I can't do that. So it's just wild. That's honestly one of the biggest frustrations I have. And that I don't care who I piss off who watches this. That is what sets me apart from the other trainers is I flat out refuse to do useless filler bullshit. Cause I'm just like you, Spencer, like I'll go back and cook again. I'll go be a line cook. I'll do whatever I can do. I would rather do that then look at training as like, what can I do to just kind of pass the time, right? Because
Yeah.
that's just not who I am. It's not in my DNA. So
And like I'm gonna paraphrase, I believe something that you said, but basically you're like in the gym, you want to just get them to be like a force producing machine, and
yes,
then on the field, go let them be a killer. Like you're an athlete, go be an athlete on the field. Like let's not
yes,
try to be now. Obviously, there's some nuance, and then they have the science about when we think about like the stretch shortening cycle and different ways to do that. Obviously, it can get like a little bit funny, but like we need to make them a machine at generating force, and they're
yes.
going to cover a lot of that stuff being an athlete. And I forgot the second part what I wanted to talk about, but
Okay. So the general qualities, right, through all of our just basic compound movement patterns, horizontal push pull, vertical push pull, hip hinge, squat, lunge, all that good stuff that you guys already know about. Um, that's kind of something that I feel will give the athlete we'll be generous and say 60% of what they need. Then we have some choices to make as far as explosive specific training. I know you and I like I'm more Olympic weightlifter. You do like the West Side and correct me if I'm wrong, but like more speed work, bands, chains, that kind of stuff. That's super viable, right? And I think that both ways can work. And that's where what you're talking about, the nuance comes in and that's where like me as a trainer I do look up to people like you because you're doing something I'm not doing, so I'm watching and I'm studying and I'm taking notes because I've had athletes that are like I don't like power cleans flat out.
yeah.
Okay, well it looks great, like you're going to get a lot out of it. I don't like power cleans, I'm not doing it. Okay, so then you have to have something in that toolbox to draw from at that point then to get the rest of that 40% that's remaining. And I'd say the last, 10% or whatever would be just your GPP work, conditioning, all that kind of stuff. But for athletes in specific, right? The people I train out of my garage, like kind of my pride and joy, if you will, I do a needs analysis based on whatever the sport it is that they're playing, right? So me, I'm a contact sports athlete. I play rugby, right? I've wrestled and I played football. So really I'm all contact sports my whole life. I can't apply the same mentality and principles and just carbon copy cookie cutter programming to a basketball point guard or to a soccer player or somebody like that. So what is it that you're lacking, right, in terms of general qualities? And then what is it that you're lacking if we can go ahead and pull up your practice footage, your game tape? I want to hear what your coach has to say. I went as far as with one of my high school football players who played at a big high school here in Arizona. Why is he not getting playing time? Who the fuck are you? I'm his personal trainer. I want to know. I want to know how can I help get this kid on the field? Anything I can do, you know. So,
I want to go into a little bit just that you touched on the Olympic lifting. And
yeah,
then after that, I want to talk about all three of our perspectives on like a kid that wants to get a 40-yard dash up. And I think you're talking a little bit about it, like a needs analysis and everything like that. So I
sure.
know Jeremy doesn't do as much as that, but I want to hear his perspective on maximal strength and how he would go about approaching that. But
Yeah,
as far as Olympic lifting goes, I think I was doing cleans when I didn't know what a clean was to get the
yeah,
bar, front squat and back squat before I had a rack.
yeah,
And then when I started doing like I the only thing I care about is sprinting speed.
yeah,
I'm trying to find programs and stuff, and I'm doing power cleans, and I'm like looking at all these college programs and what are people doing, and it's 3 to 5 sets of squats, 3 to 5 sets of press, 3 to 5 sets of an Olympic lift,
yeah,
maybe a hinge, 3 times a week, and then you do your sprint work and jump work, and it all blends together, whatever. So I was like, okay, this is something all these sprinters are doing, right?
yeah,
Even when like Jamaica and stuff like that, they weren't even doing the Olympic lifts yet, I don't think, at that period of time. So I'm like, okay. And I had friends that were in the CrossFit phase that had CrossFit gyms people that just are competing in Olympic weightlifting that were
yeah,
coaching. So I had these people looking with me, looking at my technique, going over it, in
sure.
2010, 11, 12, 13. I got the shoes.
Yeah,
I got chalk. I got bumper plates, and I'm figuring it out. And it was like 2015, and it's just like, man, I'm trying the Olympic lifts, and they're not suiting me. They're
yes,
not they're not going up. It's not making me faster. And I'm like, I'm doing a hang snatch for sets of five with 115, and I'm curling it. Like
yeah,
I know how to use my hips, but they're not. I've tried it for 6 years, and it's not
yeah,
doing it. And my friend's like, well, why are you doing them then? Like, he's the Olympic lifter.
yes,
He's like,
yes,
if you're not getting anything out of it, he's like, and he's the one who put it in my mind. Why don't you try an above knee rack pull, like the second pull or whatever, with
yep,
bands and chains, explosively as you can? And I'm like, yeah, I can slam that bar.
yep,
Like, let's put 1,000,000 pounds of bands and chains on, and I could hit it hard. He's like, well, why don't you do that? And then see, like, you don't have to do the Olympic lifts. And I was kind of frustrated it took me that long trying
yep,
to fit that circle into the square, before I
yes,
finally pulled them. And like you saw recently, I brought them back in just to see, hey, after 10 years of not training them, can I do 3 sessions and get a PR?
yes,
Basically. But I
yes,
know I'm not getting anything out of it. So that's what led to me more to the West Side based stuff. Not that before when I was a kid, I would do weight vest jumps and run stairs and throw logs and do all these things. So I'm just
yep.
like, I can do more of that stuff and not worry about cleans.
Oh, absolutely. So you are probably one of the people I bring up the most to people that are like, I'm going to die on the Olympic weightlifting hill, right? I use you as a reference because I do the cleans. My snatch is a dumpster fire. I gave up on it, right? I do split jerks. I do push press. That's my Olympic lifting forte. Um, you, because of your insane pulling strength and explosiveness, can ragdoll up. I don't care what the form looks like, to be honest with you. You're taking 275 and you're violently getting it up to, what amounts to your front rack position, where you got Olympic lifters, right? Um, I'm sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. You got Olympic lifters that are like super stuck into this like technique nerd type of mentality of like strength doesn't matter. It's just about your pull and how the technique looks and stuff like that. But I'll just go ahead and say it. They're not pulling 700 pounds off the ground, brother. They're pulling 300, 400. They're like, well, why isn't my clean going up? Right. So strength plays a part in that. Now, we'll tie in the Olympic list to an athlete, right? if everything isn't like, how can I word this? You mentioned you felt like you were curling the snatches and stuff like that. You can keep trying to spin your wheels on that, but you're not going to get anything out of it. It's then time for you as the athlete or you as the trainer that's training this athlete to say, we're going to move on to a different modality because the end goal is what? To get faster, not to be an Olympic weightlifter. Weightlifting is dope. Like, really, all lifting is dope, right? But at the end of the day, athletes care the most about dominating in their chosen sport, and they're going to care about what gives them the most bang for their buck. You know what I mean? So,
And I always think about if we're not competing at something, we don't have to do it. There's no lift we have to do. And even if you're competing at the lift, I'll bring up Pete Rubish. He couldn't, the squat was killing his hips.
yeah,
He split squat and then he would just squat basically just at the meet. There's nothing that we have to do. Like, let's just progress. So, I want to get into the like I want you to bring up the example how you have an athlete come to you, whatever he wants to get faster at the 40. What does this athlete look like?
yes,
Like temporarily, what's his background? I want Jeremy to jump in first about what he thinks on the maximal strength or how would he approach it. But if you could tell us like just give a theoretical of like an athlete is a 15-year-old, 18-year-old, he plays sports, he wants to get faster. Like I just can you lay it out for us and then let Jeremy answer?
sure. So let's say we got a junior varsity corner, okay, on a high school football team whose coach tells him, you're getting beat on hook and goes. You're getting beat on quick slants. People are burning you, right? You have what it takes to be a corner, but you have to get higher top end speed. You're at a 5 flat 40 right now. We need you to be at least a 4 8 40. That's my example.
I mean, I'm a very meat and potatoes guy when it comes to like getting stronger. I mean, it's like we said, the squat and the deadlift, just very basic movements. I feel like if you could just have somebody burn out with the most basic of stuff before ever having to do any specifics, that's probably going to be the best case scenario, especially if they're that young. And it's going to be like a case by case scenario. Obviously, if somebody is slow, you're going to have to look at the mechanics of the movement first initially. I mean, because the way I look at any movement, you have to break it down in order to see what is failing first. Like some people could be benching, and let's just say they're at 315, but they're not like retracting their scapula. They're doing a lot of things in the movement that's subpar, and they could be doing like getting like 15% out of it. Obviously, it's going to be a big part, but I'm just a big meat and potatoes guy. Just squat and deadlift. Just get them stronger overall. Like
Okay.
if you're a 14-year-old or 15-year-old that doesn't lift, just start lifting. Like you don't need to overcomplicate it.
Sure.
And Ben?
Yeah, I would agree pretty much wholeheartedly with what he said. I'd have to look at the general qualities first, and I'm just going to go ahead and go out on a limb because I've seen high school weight rooms. They're not doing good deadlifts. They're not doing good squats. So you could have him say, "Why squat 405?" It doesn't count if it's a quarter squat and you re-rack it, right? Like we want you to squat 225 at least, right? So yes, increase squat, increase deadlift. That would be first and foremost. And then exactly what he said. Um, Let me get a tape of you running this 40, right? I'm not a running wizard myself. I've consumed a lot of content on running and stuff because it's been pertinent to me. The different positions I have to play in rugby. Some of them are just grinded out power positions. Some of them they want me to be able to move and be an athlete, right? So um, I would look at the running mechanics. That's kind of what I did for myself. And something just what I've noticed, and I've prescribed this to myself and a couple other clients, is seated broad jumps. Right. So that's kind of like that, mimicking that start position of a sprint, in my opinion, where you're kind of loading up with all that energy and exploding out. So that would be something for explosiveness. But in the terms of like the top end speed, where let's say you are explosive in the first 10 yards, but you're slow in the last 30, that's a big question mark to me, honestly. Like I don't really have the knowledge to do that. So maybe Spencer, you could weigh in on that part.
Okay. Well, first thing, like you were speaking on the mechanics. Well, I think a few days ago, I guess Black Friday, it made 11 years since I've been coaching. And I'm sure like all of us, we coached before in some capacity, like earlier in our life, like friends or family asked you to help. But for me specifically, I was when I first started, I was focusing on getting people to run faster and sprint mechanics. And it's like the thing, I've watched so much tape, like my brain hurts. You couldn't make me watch more tape. But the thing is the top end speed, someone who could sprint at full speed and doesn't have breakdown at every lesser speed, they're gonna be better. Um, so like even if you want to improve someone's like first 10, like to have them faster at the top end speed, most
Yep.
times they're gonna be faster on that first 10, but obviously it doesn't work like in inverse.
Okay.
But like you were saying, like breaking it down, like I never comment on people's like random like videos for track, like sometimes in lifting, because everyone since like TikTok and all that, everyone sees, like you were saying, they see something and then they regurgitate it and they have no idea what they're looking at. And like it drives me crazy. Like you'll see like a top sprinter and like one arm does something different than the other. And
Yep.
people will think like if you just fix that one arm, like they'll run faster. Like if you change that arm, like his other hip that's compensating for it's gonna do something else, Or
Yep.
like why does this guy have high knee raise or low knee raise? So the first thing is like looking at the technique, and if it's someone who's like running with a certain pattern and it's working, don't change it, a lot of the time it's the acceleration isn't it's not natural, right? To teach someone to drive down and back into the ground and have like low shin angles when you first start trying to teach them, they start landing their feet out ahead of them. Like not to get like, I don't know, everyone watching this probably is not going to know all the details of it, but like the earlier acceleration, especially from a start position, is it just, I don't know what's the word, but it doesn't come natural. As
Sure.
top speed sprinting, it's like it's in everyone's DNA to know how to do that. So
Yes.
um like I said, I'll break that down, but top speed sprinting, like, yeah, people try like overspeed sprinting and stuff like that. But if you can get the top end better by sprinting, that's usually like the fastest, like the least ground contact exercise, unless you have like some crazy setup. And then like you guys were saying, like to get them stronger. And one other trick that I found, like you see me do so much bands and chains,
Yeah.
even if you have someone that's like I always use box squat like most of the time, but let's say they're a 315 box squatter to parallel. It's a cornerback, right?
Yep.
And you have him for a month and you can't, let's say you can't, that's his top, whatever, and he has practice and let's just say for instance, you couldn't even get him stronger.
Yeah.
But in that top end range of motion, he's not used to using bands and chains. And let's say at the end of the month, he still only squats 315, but you got him used to accelerating because so many times with straight weight, they practice slowing down when it gets to the top, slowing down. And now he's practicing just flying through the top of that lift. I guarantee
Yes.
when you get that guy back on the field, he's going to have gotten stronger. And a couple other things is like if they're not doing any type of resisted sprinting, that's like a low hanging fruit to do some resisted sprinting. And then, like you said, whatever plyometrics that they like, that's fun, that they want to.
Oh, looks
You
like we
guys there?
yeah, I'm there.
Did
It
we
looks like
did we
looks
did
like
we
we
lose
drifted out a
Spencer?
little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so you want to just do like a little Q&A back and forth kind of thing, or is there anything that you want to talk about further? Because I know that you obviously did a lot of sports, like you mentioned before, and you're a personal trainer. So how much of your sport history affected your personal training?
Big time. Yeah, big time. So
Damn, my bad.
a lot of trainers out there, just in general, are more of like the bodybuilder, like pose in the mirror type of dudes and gals, Whereas me, like that's not at all whatever what I've been after genuinely. And it's crazy to me to hear clients like, oh, you look slim or you look this or you look like you put on some weight. And it's completely, I could care less about aesthetics. But yeah, so the sports for me plays a big part in my training mentality. And obviously, like as much as we'd all like to say we're not biased, we're absolutely as humans going to revert back to what we're comfortable with and what we do all the time. So, yeah, it was a foreign concept when I first started at this gym to see, why is this guy, why are they going to the basketball court and running sprints right now? That's crazy. Why are they doing box jumps? Why are they doing explosive like lands and stuff? And it's, well, I don't care about any of that. I only care about aesthetics and stuff. But they've gotten results, aesthetic results, and the stuff that they thought they didn't care about, right? Because they're actually not athletes. Now they nerd out on it like I would, right? Of like, wow, I feel better in my low back. Like I posted one of my clients, this was probably like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, maybe, of one of her PRs. This was somebody who was, I'm afraid of deadlifts. I don't like them. I'm going to just take this belt and cinch it down as tight as possible. So I watched her doing it, and it was just horrible form. So we worked our way up. She got the bigger deadlift. Now she pulled 250 today. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, so
Congrats.
and I mean the physique has followed. So as we know, and I could go on, a huge tangent about this whole like physique obsession and stuff of like, well, if you only care about physique, then we need to only care about calorie deficit, minimum effective dose training, and why would we ever go do something like sprinting or hiking or playing a sport or something like that? Because that's not going to have a direct correlation to our physique, right? So that's kind of something that grinds my gears with a lot of these people is it's like, well, maybe you just want to be a healthier human being, right? And I promise you, right? You're going to get your genetic potential. You're going to reach your genetic potential. If you're eating right and stuff, you're going to see those abs that you're obsessed with and everything like that. Like Spencer's shown it on cuts. There's tons of YouTubers that have been like, I can gain 60 pounds and lose 60 pounds just with the sole concept of calories in, calories out. That's it. So sorry if that was a long winded answer, dude.
No, that was awesome. I appreciate it. It's cool to see somebody who's actually having their clients not just look better, but feel better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool to have like somebody get something good out of the training rather than just like, oh, I did some bicep curls, I did some bench press. And
Yep.
so what would you say is like the turnover rate in terms of people who wanted to do the bodybuilding and then once you introduce more functional stuff, like what would you say is a percentage of people that ended up being like, this is the best, I'm gonna just do this?
The people that can do it, and this is going to sound crazy and cocky, but they've been with me as long as I've implemented this. So there was one person that said, hey, I felt a lot of pain in my plantar fascia area and my Achilles and my shin. And I said, that's called an adaptation your body is making. You're not used to landing and jumping. So I promise you, we're not doing anything crazy like single leg bounds or anything like that. You're going to make the adaptation. You're going to be fine. That person is still with me to this day. Um, I would say it's a very positive, they're very receptive to it when they get what they think they need to get out of it, versus like, I don't know, they look at other trainers, they look at just a lot of juice heads, a lot of steroid users in the gym, and they're like, well, what's he doing differently? And I'm like, well, he's on PEDs, buddy. That's what he's doing differently. And then you have to like kind of educate them. You're what's called a natural lifter, right? So you're not going to have a shoulder that looks like a globe on your arm, no matter how many lateral raises you do, right? But you are going to get a better shoulder girdle and more stability by doing barbell overhead press. So that's kind of that's kind of how I handle that. They like it. It's fun. It's different. And like I say, the setting I'm in, it's like almost a foreign language that people are witnessing. Whoa, what are they doing? You know what I mean? So it's generated a lot of clientele based on that alone.
Even let's say you have a girl that just wants to get glutes, like you say.
Yeah.
If you get them like a strong pull, the glutes are going to get bigger, right? But what if they don't even know proper mechanics because they come to the top and they think all that's important is squeezing my butt or doing weird
Yes.
things. When you get them jumping, they figure out what hip extension is. Then you put them back on the deadlift. The deadlift goes up, and then they end up seeing the results that they wanted anyway. But like you said, there's a lot of other benefits that come with it. The other thing that I wanted to say earlier was um I have an issue with that too, is because I've had clients that come from other trainers, and I understand everyone's like trying to make a buck, right? But they try to brainwash them to being dependent on them. Like they have some secret of turning the arm this way, and you have to do exercises in this order, or
Yep.
just some irrelevant thing that they need you to stick around. Where I'm exactly like you. I'm just going to give you everything that I know. If you want to stay with me, cool. But I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to
Yep.
get your results. Again, if you want to train with me your whole life, I'm here for you, but I want to give you as much as I know so you can implement it on your own. And two, I'm sure you're like this too. If you like, I had a client the other day, I had like 6 years ago call me and just like ask for some advice and like, no problem, like
Yep.
all trying to help people out for life.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yes. So I have taken clients from previous trainers on a number of different occasions, not always, for contentious reasons or anything like that. Sometimes just based on scheduling conflicts. And there's always that immediate, whoa, yeah, we didn't do this. I'm not used to this type. No worries, no problem. If there's something you're uncomfortable with, let me know. I'll make an adjustment. But what almost inevitably tends to start happening when you just feed them the truth, like, and I'm not saying any of us are geniuses, but just good, solid, 100+ year old training knowledge of like, brother, we're going to teach you how to deadlift. We're going to teach you how to squat. We're going to teach you how to press, all this kind of stuff. They're like, wow, man, my physique is transforming like never before. And I'm eating the diet that you gave me and eating protein. And we never did this kind of stuff before. And it's like, it's
That's the
wild to me
basics.
because, yeah,
The
it's wild because all those other trainers care about is like, building this mentality where it's like, well, you need me. You need me to get results, even though you're not actually getting results. That's what's wild to me is it's like, brother, if I'm paying you money, it's like my cable TV and that shit doesn't turn on, I'm pissed off. You know what I mean?
It's kind
So
of like the entire like functional fitness YouTube cycle where I feel like it's like introducing a lot of good ideas and modalities that on their own work really well. But once you combine them and you make it really overcomplicated, you're kind of putting people on like that constant beginner loop where they're trying to like balance all these skills, but they're never going to truly master any of them, which is constantly going to put them in like or keep them in a beginner, slightly intermediate stage.
yes.
I, I was gonna bring that up, Jeremy, because to me, what I knew you were gonna go with the functional fitness thing. Obviously, not everyone, but it's like a continual moving of a goalpost where it's just we're talking about well, we were talking about sprinting, right? And you're asking like, is there diminishing returns in strength? Like, well, I don't know, there might be, but it gets exponentially harder to get stronger at the same body weight, which is like no, no, you as a trainer, you don't want to have to tell that to someone who's been training for 20 years and be like, well, what, I can't get faster. Well, like you can, but it's going to be like microscopically faster, like
Yeah.
over years of training where you can just like Jeremy said, oh, well, today we're going to do gymnastics move. Today we're going to do this. Or even like in the strength world, like just gain 50 pounds and your bench press will go up. Like
So
no one
Ben,
wants
we
to be
have
accountable to the scrutiny of getting someone faster is the hardest thing.
So Ben,
Yeah.
we have around 30 seconds left. If you could leave people with a message and philosophy that'll give them something to motivate them, what would it be?
Um, the biggest thing would be don't worry about the outcome. Fall head over heels in love with training, right? So learn to love training like you love any of your favorite hobbies. Do it hard, do it intense, and all those results and outcomes that you're so fixated on, they'll fall into place. So
Sounds like how